When a guy is truly into you, there's something about the way he listens that feels different. He's not just waiting for his turn to talk or casually nodding while you speak. He's actually absorbing your words, as if each sentence carries a tiny piece of who you are. He catches the way you laugh at something unexpected, the way your voice softens when you talk about someone you care about, and the way your eyes light up when you share a story. It's not always about grand gestures or loud declarations. Sometimes the deepest kind of affection shows up in quiet observation. Most people in life are so distracted, glued to their phones, rushing through moments, that they miss the magic in small details. But when a man is genuinely drawn to you, he slows down in your presence. The rest of the world becomes background noise because his attention has a home, and it's with you. You might notice it in the little moments when he brings something up you said days ago, something you didn't even think was significant. Maybe you casually mentioned that you loved a certain tea, and a week later, without asking, he surprises you with it. Maybe you told a story about your childhood pet, and the next time you talk, he remembers the pet's name without you having to repeat it. These aren't accidents. This is someone who files away the pieces of you because they matter to him. And here's the thing. Most of us don't even realize how rare this is. We're so used to people half listening, giving distracted or forgetting important things we've shared that when someone actually remembers, it feels almost foreign. That's why it can feel weird, because it's not the norm. But that weirdness is where the truth lies. When you really think about it, paying attention to small details is a risk. It's a form of vulnerability because it means he's letting himself care enough to notice. People who are emotionally detached or guarded don't store these little facts about others. They keep things surface level to avoid investment. But a guy who's into you, he's already invested. His mind naturally starts to connect dots about you, your habits, your preferences, and even the way you see the world. It's not an effort he has to force. It's instinctive. That's the beauty of genuine attraction. It pulls focus without needing to try. You become the person his brain is wired to notice. It's as if every interaction leaves breadcrumbs in his memory, and he's not just keeping track, he's following them back to understand you better. This level of attentiveness doesn't just reveal that he likes you, it shows that he respects you. Because remembering small details is about more than attraction. It's about valuing someone enough to make space for them in your mind. Think about the last time you truly felt heard by someone. Didn't it make you feel safer, more open, more willing to share? That's the space he's creating, consciously or not. He's signaling that your words aren't disposable, that your stories and experiences deserve a place in his mental world. And that's powerful because when someone feels seen and heard, they naturally start to trust. Trust is the foundation of deeper connections. And this kind of attentive energy is the first brick in that foundation. Sometimes it's not even about what he says in return, but about how he reacts in the moment. You'll see it in the way he pauses when you're speaking, how he tilts his head slightly, how his eyebrows lift when something you say genuinely interests him. You'll see it in the way he mirrors your energy, leaning in when you do, matching your pace without even realizing it. This body language is his subconscious way of anchoring himself to you in the moment. Even if you're surrounded by other people, he's locked into the invisible thread that connects the two of you. That thread is woven from attention, pure, focused, intentional attention, and it's one of the clearest signs that his interest runs deeper than surface attraction. In a world full of distractions, his attention becomes a gift. It's easy to underestimate it because it doesn't come with fireworks or big proclamations, but it's actually the thing that sustains connection over time. Looks can fade, conversations can hit lulls, but the ability to keep noticing someone, even after the newness wears off, is what keeps a relationship alive. This is why, when you see a guy paying attention to the small details from the very start, it's worth paying attention to him. It's a preview of how he's likely to treat you if things grow between you. Someone who notices you now will continue to notice you later because it's part of how they connect. Not a performance to impress you in the early days. The truth is, noticing the small things is an act of presence. Most people live in either the past or the future, replaying old regrets or worrying about what's next. But when someone is in the moment with you, they're anchored. They're not scanning the room or thinking about what's on their to-do list. They're here, now with you. That's why it feels different. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of this kind of attention, you know it's magnetic. It makes you want to open up more, to share more, to connect more deeply, because you feel safe in the knowledge that you won't be ignored or dismissed. It's the opposite of feeling invisible. For many women, these little acts of noticing can be more powerful than any romantic gesture. Flowers are lovely, dinners are nice, but when someone remembers the exact way you described your dream vacation or recalls the specific color you once said made you feel confident, it hits differently. It's personal. It's not something he could give to just anyone. It's tailored to you. And that's what makes it feel rare and valuable. This isn't a recycled line or a generic compliment. It's a mirror reflecting that he sees you as you really are, not as a vague idea of someone he likes. The beauty of this sign is that it's hard to fake over time. Anyone can pretend to care for a few weeks, but real noticing requires consistency. It's about showing up mentally in every interaction. That's why it's one of the most telling signs that a guy is truly into you. If you start to notice patterns, him remembering, him referencing past conversations, him catching things other people miss, that's not luck or coincidence. That's someone whose focus has landed squarely on you, even when you're not around. Because interest doesn't just live in the moments you're together. It lingers, it grows, it keeps him coming back, eager to learn more. And maybe that's why this kind of behavior can feel both weird and wonderful at the same time. We're not used to being seen with such clarity, and it can feel disarming when it happens. But that's the point. It shakes you out of the ordinary and into something real. And when it's real, you feel it in your gut. It's not about him being perfect or getting every detail right. It's about him caring enough to try again and again without being told to. That effort, quiet as it may be, speaks volumes about where his heart is leaning. When a man is genuinely drawn to you, he doesn't just wait around hoping the universe will throw you into the same space. He manufactures opportunities, often in ways that seem almost random or slightly odd, but make perfect sense once you realize the intention behind them. He might accidentally run into you at a place you mentioned loving, or conveniently be in the neighborhood where you're going. He might ask you for advice on something trivial, not because he can't figure it out himself, but because it gives him a reason to reach out. These moments can feel coincidental at first, but over time you notice the pattern. It's him creating touch points. It's less about the excuse and more about the access. He's finding ways to shrink the space between your worlds so that your interactions feel natural, even if he has to engineer them behind the scenes. It's easy to underestimate these small moves because they're not grand romantic gestures, but effort often hides in simplicity. When a man is into you, he's aware that connection grows from frequency. Those little repeated moments where your paths cross and conversations deepen. He knows that every extra encounter gives him a chance to learn something about you, to build comfort, to see if there's a spark worth fanning into a flame. And so, even if he plays it cool, you'll notice he's suddenly around more than chance would explain. Maybe he joins a mutual friends group outing when he normally wouldn't, or he remembers an event you mentioned and just happens to show up there too. To you, it might feel casual, but for him, it's intentional. He's putting himself where the possibility of others can grow. Sometimes, these efforts can feel a little weird, because they're not the direct, confident declarations movies have conditioned us to expect. Not every man will walk straight up and say, "I like you and I want to spend time with you." Some will mask their interest in more subtle, even slightly clumsy ways, like finding reasons to text you late at night about something unimportant, or looping you into conversations that could have happened without you. This is where understanding male behavior helps. For many men, creating casual excuses feels safer than making a big move too soon. They don't want to scare you off, so they build comfort in low-pressure settings. The weirdness is just the disguise worn by genuine interest. You can often spot this pattern if you pay attention to timing. Notice how he reaches out or appears when your schedule might allow a moment together. It's as if he has a radar for when you're available, and he uses that window to slide in effortlessly. He might even pretend the encounter is totally spontaneous. But the truth is, people don't just coincidentally show up in your orbit over and over unless there's motivation behind it. This doesn't make him manipulative. It makes him strategic in a charming way. If anything, it shows he values the chance to see you enough to plan for it, even if he hides the planning under a layer of casual coincidence. Another thing you'll notice is how these or random meetups or calls tend to have an undertone of wanting to extend the interaction. He might start with something small, like borrowing a book or asking your opinion on a new restaurant, and then effortlessly pivot into a longer conversation or a spontaneous plan. It's never just about the original reason, that's simply the opener. The real goal is connection. And if you watch closely, you'll see that he subtly stretches these moments so that they last longer than they needed to. That's a sign his interest is emotional, not just situational. What's fascinating is how this behavior often works on both of you without you realizing it. By increasing the number of casual encounters, he's creating familiarity. Familiarity builds comfort, and comfort makes attraction easier to express without fear. This is why you might find yourself suddenly thinking about him more, not because there was a huge romantic moment, but because his presence has quietly become part of your routine. This is one of the oldest and most effective ways human connection forms: repeated, low-pressure exposure that turns strangers into friends and friends into something more. Some women misinterpret this subtle approach as a lack of seriousness, but in reality, it's often the opposite. A man who isn't interested doesn't go out of his way to insert himself into your world. He doesn't rearrange his schedule to match yours, or remember tiny pieces of information just so he can use them as an entry point to connect. The fact that he's doing this, even in small ways, shows investment. It also shows patience. He's willing to build the bridge gradually rather than rushing across it and risking collapse. That's a sign of someone who sees value in doing things right, even if it takes time. It's also worth noting that these efforts often reflect his personality. Some men are natural extroverts who will create bold, obvious moments to spend time with you. Others are more reserved and will rely on quieter methods, like showing up in shared spaces or finding excuses to talk. Neither approach is inherently better. What matters is the consistency behind it. When a man is into you, he won't rely solely on chance. He'll make the moves he can in the way that feels authentic to him to ensure that you keep having reasons to interact. That's where his sincerity shows. It's not in one big moment, but in the accumulation of many small ones. Over time, these seemingly insignificant actions start to add up. You begin to notice the pattern, the way he finds his way into your days without forcing it. And you start to realize that all these little moments are his way of saying, "I want to be part of your life." Even if he never uses those exact words. It's not the dramatic kind of romance we see in movies, but it's the real kind. The kind built on presence, persistence, and an understanding that love often grows in the spaces between the big events. That's why when a guy is into you, he'll do these weird little things to make sure he's around, because he knows that closeness doesn't happen by accident, it's created. When a man really likes you, something in his usual rhythm changes, and often that change shows up in the form of nervousness. It's almost like his brain and his heart start working on two different channels. His mind wants to impress you, but his emotions keep tripping over themselves because your opinion matters too much. He might stumble over words he normally says with ease, lose his train of thought mid-sentence, or laugh at moments that weren't meant to be funny. These small slips aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of investment. Around you, he doesn't have the luxury of autopilot. Every moment feels loaded with significance. And when moments carry weight, people behave differently. That difference is what makes his nervousness a tell. He can be the most confident guy in the room, but if you notice subtle awkwardness in your presence, it's because you've shifted the stakes for him. The interesting thing about this kind of nervousness is that it doesn't always show up in big, obvious ways. Sometimes it's as subtle as the way he fidgets with his hands when you're talking, or how he adjusts his shirt even though it's already fine. Maybe he checks his phone unnecessarily, not because he's bored, but because he's trying to manage his own energy. It's like he's aware that his usual cool, relaxed demeanor has been replaced by a heightened awareness of himself. And here's the truth. Nervousness is a physiological response to attraction. His body releases adrenaline, his heart rate speeds up, And suddenly even simple actions require more conscious thought. You're not just another person in the room. You're the person his body is involuntarily reacting to. And that's why you notice those small tells. Men often try to hide this reaction because they think confidence means never showing vulnerability. But real confidence isn't about being unaffected. It's about staying present despite the nerves. If you've ever wondered why he seemed so calm with others but different with you, this is why. You're seeing the side of him that's trying to manage both the excitement and the pressure of being near you. It's not that he becomes someone else entirely. It's that you bring out a version of him that's more alert, more careful, and more emotionally tuned in. This is why some men, when they like someone, actually get quieter instead of louder. They don't want to say the wrong thing, so they filter themselves more than usual, which can make their energy feel both sweet and slightly hesitant. Sometimes, his nervousness will sneak into moments that should feel effortless, like a casual conversation. You might see him over-explaining something he normally says in one sentence, or laughing a little too quickly at your jokes, almost like he's rushing to make sure you know he's engaged. His mind is balancing two goals, at once to impress you and to connect with you. Those two goals can actually create friction, because trying to impress can sometimes pull someone out of authenticity. That's why a man who's into you might oscillate between moments of total charm and moments of unexpected awkwardness. The mix isn't a flaw, it's proof that you matter enough to shake his usual composure. You may also notice physical signs he can't completely control. His pupils might dilate when he looks at you, his breathing might change, or there's a faint blush on his face when you give him attention. He might touch his face or run his hand through his hair more than usual, little grooming gestures that are almost primal signals of attraction. Even the way he positions his body can shift, leaning slightly closer than necessary, angling himself toward you even when others are speaking. These aren't scripted moves, they're instinctive responses to wanting to be closer, to wanting to be noticed in return. And while he might not be aware of all of them, you can often read the truth in those unconscious behaviors. One of the more endearing parts of male nervousness is that it's often paired with small acts of trying to impress in ways that might seem unnecessary. Maybe he overcomplicates a simple task just so he can show you he's capable, or he suddenly takes interest in a topic you mentioned, even if it's outside his usual world. He might tell a story with more energy than normal, hoping to make you laugh or think highly of him. These are all micro attempts to win your approval, and while they might seem small, they reveal a deeper truth. He's aware of the value you hold in his eyes, and he doesn't want to risk a bad impression. That awareness alone is enough to make even the most confident man feel a little out of his depth. It's worth remembering that nervousness doesn't mean he's unsure about his feelings. It means he's sure enough that they've bypassed his logical guardrails. Men don't get nervous over people they don't care about. They might be polite, they might be friendly, but their energy stays even. The moment you see that shift, where his usual ease gets replaced with a slightly heightened alertness, you can be almost certain you've struck an emotional chord. This is also why the nervousness tends to fade as you get to know each other better. Once trust and familiarity grow, he no longer feels like every interaction is a high-stakes test. But in the early stages, that nervous energy is one of the most honest tells of genuine attraction. Some women misinterpret this as disinterest or awkwardness they should avoid, but in truth, it's often the opposite. That hesitation, those stumbles, that slight lack of polish, it's all evidence that he's emotionally invested in how you perceive him. If anything, it's a compliment in its rawest form. He's not indifferent, he's in the process of navigating the balance between wanting to be himself and wanting to be the best version of himself for you. And while that might lead to some clumsy moments, those are often the memories that stick because they feel real and unfiltered. Over time, you might even find his nervousness endearing. It's a reminder that, no matter how put together someone seems, genuine feelings have a way of humbling us. Attraction isn't just about grand gestures or perfectly timed lines. It's about the way someone's presence can shake your usual composure. And when you see that in him, you're witnessing one of the purest indicators of interest. It's not the loudest sign, but it's one of the most sincere. Because you can't fake the way someone's body and mind respond when they're truly captivated by you. When a man is genuinely into you, he'll often look for ways to make you laugh, and sometimes those ways can seem completely random or even a little odd. He might send you a funny meme in the middle of the day that makes no sense to anyone else, but has a private meaning just for the two of you. He might blurt out a joke in a serious moment just to see your smile break through. Humor is his way of creating an emotional shortcut. It bypasses logic and builds connection instantly. Laughter makes you feel lighter, more at ease, and more willing to let your guard down. And for a man who's into you, that's gold, because it opens the door for closeness without the pressure of heavy conversations. The way he tries to make you laugh becomes his personal fingerprint, his own unique style of humor that he tailors to you. It's important to notice that this isn't about generic jokes or rehearsed one-liners. It's about moments that feel personal and specific. He's not trying to be a stand-up comedian performing for an audience. He's trying to be the one person who can brighten your day in a way no one else can. This is why his humor might sometimes seem strange to others, but to you it feels spot on. It's because it's based on shared moments, inside jokes, and a growing understanding of what actually makes you smile. That's the thing about genuine attraction. It pushes people to learn your emotional language, and humor is often a big part of that. He doesn't just want you to laugh, he wants you to laugh with him, because shared laughter is a form of intimacy. One reason humor is such a powerful sign of interest is because it requires risk. Making someone laugh means putting yourself out there, even at the cost of looking silly or missing the mark. A man who doesn't care won't take that risk. He'll stick to safe, surface-level interactions. But a man who's into you will put his ego on the line just to create that moment of shared joy. That's why you'll sometimes see him exaggerate stories, do funny impressions, or poke gentle fun at himself when he's around you. He's showing you that he's comfortable enough to be playful and vulnerable in your presence. This playfulness isn't random. It's a calculated way to test and strengthen the emotional connection between you. Humor also serves as a bridge between two people who are still figuring each other out. Early on, there can be tension, uncertainty, and questions about where things are headed. Humor cuts through all that. When he finds ways to make you laugh, he's also showing you that he wants your time together to be something you look forward to, not something that feels like work. It's his way of saying, I want to be the source of good feelings in your life. And often, this shows up in the smallest ways, sending you a funny voice note, making a ridiculous face when you're trying to be serious, or inventing silly nicknames that no one else would understand. What makes this weird sometimes is that the humor can feel almost childlike in its spontaneity. He might break into a goofy dance, sing a made-up song about something trivial, or create an exaggerated version of something you said earlier just to get a laugh. It's not polished, and that's the point. It's authentic. These moments come from a place of wanting to entertain you in real time, without overthinking. It's as if his internal filter temporarily shuts off when he's with you, because his priority shifts from looking cool to making you happy. That's a sign you've reached a level of emotional comfort with him that not everyone gets to see. There's also an unspoken trust that comes with sharing humor. For laughter to work, you have to feel safe enough to let go for a moment. A man who invests in making you laugh is investing in creating that safety. He's subtly saying, it's okay to relax here. And when you respond with laughter, you're validating that trust. That's why these exchanges often snowball into more closeness. You begin to associate him with joy, ease, and the ability to be yourself without judgment. Over time, these light moments become emotional anchors in the relationship, reminders of why you feel drawn to him in the first place. You might also notice that he remembers the specific kinds of humor you enjoy and brings them back in later moments. Maybe you laughed at a certain type of sarcastic remark or loved a certain style of witty banter, and suddenly he's weaving more of that into your conversations. This is deliberate, whether he's conscious of it or not. He's picking up on what works with you, not in a manipulative way, but because he genuinely wants to connect in the way that resonates most. That level of attention to your sense of humor is a strong sign that you're more than just casual company to him. You're someone he wants to understand and engage with on a deeper level. It's worth mentioning that not all humor lands perfectly, and sometimes his attempts might fall flat. but the fact that he keeps trying speaks volumes. Persistence in making you smile means he's not just checking a box, he's invested in your emotional state. He wants you to feel good when you're around him, and he's willing to risk the occasional awkward moment to make that happen. And often, even the failed jokes become part of the charm. You end up laughing at the effort itself, which only strengthens the bond between you. Over time, you may start to see that his humor is more than just a personality trait. It's a love language. It's his way of giving you something intangible, but deeply valuable moments of lightness in a world that can feel heavy. He's not just making you laugh for the sake of it. He's reminding you that life is better when you can find joy together. Those shared laughs become memories, and those memories become part of the story you're building. That's why, when a man is into you, he'll go out of his way to make you laugh in ways that might seem weird to others. Because for him, the goal isn't to be funny for everyone, it's to be unforgettable for you.